When the Sacramento went out to China originally, back about 4 or 5 years before I got there, they had what they called colliers. A collier was a ship that carried coal, and they had a Navy collier. Now, when the ship went from Pearl Harbor to Midway, that's a big stretch of ocean there, and the ship couldn't carry enough coal to make that trip. She could coal it down a little, but she didn't have enough then to get to Midway. So the collier met her out in the middle of the ocean out there, and they would coal the ship at sea. That's what they did back when they were still using coal, you know. Now, when we came back from the state, coming from China, they no longer had any colliers. There's no way we could get the coal to make that trip, so we had to go around Suez, which was shorter from port to port, but it was a long way around the world, though, you know. And that's the reason we had to come back via Suez, because we couldn't make that trip from the Midways to the Pearl Harbor without refueling. And there's no way of getting coal out in the middle of the ocean, because they no longer had colliers.
And then, how was that trip then? You obviously took the river. Did you go out in the ocean around to the Suez?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. We went through different oceans. It was a wonderful trip. Our captain was a Mustang, an ex-enlisted man, and he was real good about that. Whenever we hit to a port, he would give port and half and half. Half the ship could get 3 or 4 days to go up and visit something. We were in Ceylon. We could get 3 days to go up to Rangoon and visit these old castles up there, the old stuff, you know. And wherever we went, we could get leave, which did not go in our record, see, and to see other parts of the world. For example, when we got to Cairo, Egypt, half of the ship got 3 days leave, and our ship was in Alexandria, rather. That was the port in Alexandria, and half of the ship got 3 days leave, so we go to Cairo, which is a modern city again, with all them beautiful nightclubs, you know. And we had a ball that night, you know. And the next day, we went to visit the pyramids. And half of the ship, we were in uniform, but what they done, they put us in touring cars and took us within about 3 or 4 miles of the pyramids. And from there, we got out of the touring cars and we got on camels. And I have pictures in my album. All these, including the captain, we're all sitting on these camels in our American fellow uniform, you know, going to the pyramids. And then we spent a couple hours around the pyramids. That we come back the same way. We got to get on them camels, come back about 4 or 5 miles. They got in the touring car and took us into Cairo. But wherever we went, the captain would give us little talks about it too. What this city was and what we could find there. You know, he got a lot of information for us, and then he ran at liberty. In other words, rather than sit around in some sticky bar and drinking beer all day long, we were seeing things. And I enjoyed that, you know. And wherever we went, we always got 2 or 3 days leave, and we could see different parts of the country.
And that's sort of why you joined the Navy in the first place,
Right.
Was the adventure.
And to see the world and see the thing, and to do important things, and to, you know, be able to do some constructive work instead of just shining brass all the time and cleaning up, you know.
And talking about Cairo and the pyramids, I wondered, that must be an experience. Do you recall what the civilian population was like then? Were there a lot of bazaars and people trying to sell trinkets to you at that time?
Oh yeah, in Cairo? Oh yeah. There was probably more than there are today. There was all kinds of, in other words, the minute you got off of the ship, there was guys standing on the dock. We were all trying to buy this, you know. They just hounded you to death because they wanted that American dollar. That's one thing about the American dollar. No matter where we went, that American dollar was good. You could spend it. You know, anybody would take it. Any part of the world we were at. I noticed that, you know, that American buck was wanted by everybody then, back in those days. And all these hustlers were there, and even if you went into a bar, the bartender would say, you want a girl, or you want a boy, anything you want, you could get, but you could buy it, you know, with your American dollars.